Hey everybody, welcome back to the Chaos Terminal. My name is Michael, and today on the channel I'm going to show you how we built our first ever transforming, walking vehicle. I'm calling it the Nightcrawler, after the Batmobile from Zack Snyder's Justice League. Our tutorial today is going to be on how to build this walking frame with the legs and spots for a driver's seat, but it'll be up to you to customize it. Make sure you stick around to the end of the video because even though this is an easy build, it does require you to be pretty precise, meaning that your thrusters, activated balloons, and channels all need to be accurate. Remember, some of this too is from my prototype footage, so do as I say, not as you might be seeing here. I'll be sure to point out what I adjust and change later. Alright, with that, let's get started. We're going to build the main frame of the vehicle portion. Start with a large car jack and a staircase with a platform on top to stand on. And we're going to grab vehicle base number 9 and platform bumper number 2. And we're going to make a repeat build of our monorail from the last episode. So we're going to place those pieces along there and adjust over until they've connected on that diagonal. And we're going to just extend it out by one more. Just like so. Looks good so far. Next, we're going to go underneath and we're going to build the floor for our cabin. So whatever floor piece you want, I like this one because it's blue on top. Blue's my favorite color, so I figured that was a fun touch. I got these blue pieces from the Daily Bugle set. But whichever ones you choose, you're just going to choose the 2x12s and place down a total of 8, 4 on each side of the car jack. Back up on top here, we're going to start filling in the frame a little bit more. So platform bumper number 2 again, and then this fun all gray bumper piece, that's just going to go in between those spots. Now that same platform bumper again, it's a lot of the same part over and over. Extend it outwards, and we're going to start building up. Just everywhere that you've already placed that first platform bumper, just place another one. The first reason we're raising this up is actually for weight, to make this thing a little bit heavier, but then the second is to lower the driver's seat down. Now underneath again, just add one more on those 2 that you extended out, so that way you have a stack of 3 to place this 6x4x2 outwards, and you're going to connect it on the shorter side so that it extends further out. Do you see like that? The main reason we're extending it further out is so that if something happens to your Nightcrawler, that the cabin of the vehicle should stay reasonably safe and you just need to rebuild whatever side breaks. So 3 more of the platform bumpers. This is going to be where the legs attach to. If you're following along correctly so far, you should have a pretty solid frame that looks something like this. But let me show you how the legs are going to start out. You can see we've got some pretty simple thrusters controlling the movement there. The activated balloons give it some lift. And the swivel piece is the non-steerable one. That's just the free swivel. Do not try to use the steerable one. You're going to grab the blue one and find the snap point on that middle platform bumper and then move outwards 1. That way, when you click on this 4x4, it has room to move. So grab the 4x6 block and you're going to attach it to each of those 4x4s just on the side. I like to attach it to the side with the yellow and black striping to help me keep them separated. After that, we're going to add one more 4x4 to each one. And then we're going to grab a regular balloon, the non-activated one, and you're going to click it right on to that last spot there next to the yellow and black stripe. There's a snot brick right there. Now that the legs are starting to come together, grab another one of the blue swivels, and we're going to place it underneath, and that's going to form the knee. So it should be on the underside of those studs facing towards you, just like so. It can be a little bit of a struggle getting it to click on there, but be patient. Once it's there, you'll have a new snap point for your 4x4s and your 4x6s, and you're just going to repeat that same pattern again. There we go. That's what it looks like from the other side here. You can see we're starting to make a match, starting to make a pair of walking legs. Now comes the next tricky part. Grab the activated balloon and you're going to click it right next to the black and yellow striping. And then you're going to have to run over to a driver's seat that's attached to your vehicle. And we're going to activate those balloons. If you already have one set of your legs made like I do, just make sure that all of your activated balloons are turned off before you start adjusting them. Remember that first pair of legs I made was just the prototype design, and the thrusters are not ideal. It was mostly to make sure I could get the prototype to work. But we'll continue as is, place another 4x4 and another 4x6, but this time you're going to place that 4x6 at an angle 90 degrees to where the first one was. That's going to become your foot on your walker, and it's also where the wheels will attach. Now, I've slowed down this footage because attaching the wheels is tricky. That wheel in the furthest corner should be a steerable wheel, and you're going to place a powered wheel lined up with that steerable wheel, but as directly down as you can, right like that, right there. Make sure you then adjust your direction so that it's facing forward on both of them. And we're going to do this on the other side too. Quick editor's note, do the same design on the back that you did on the front. That wheel should have been a steerable wheel, not a powered wheel. Now, before we add thrusters to this, we're going to double check that our wheels are all facing forward, and we're going to get the toe part, that piece there, onto the actual leg and the foot. This part is always the trickiest for me because of how the balloons are holding the piece up. It doesn't want to snap into place. It kind of glitches on you. It just takes a couple of tries, takes some trial and error. I eventually get it though. Now, I mentioned earlier that this is the prototype design. Where I've placed these thrusters now give us some semblance of movement, but really more of a striding movement than an actual proper walking movement. We'll give it a go anyway. Put the left side on channel 1 and the right side on channel 2, and then do the opposite for the back legs. That way each leg moves relative to the other side. You can test it here, the transforming feature, by just turning the balloons off. If you're raised up high enough like I am on that one side, you should be able to just hop out of your driver's seat and gently kind of push those into place. I'll show you here. You would think that the Nightcrawler would be kind of fragile, but it's surprisingly durable. I push on these parts all the time. I've crashed these things into things. The only time it's actually broken on me proper against the Brute, and then when I got it stuck on a cliff long enough that it eventually glitched, and I accidentally got those activated balloons to point inward and explode it. Now, I place my driver's seats pretty low in here so the wolves can't get me, but once you've placed your seat down, you can test those balloons again, and we're going to test out our thrusters. And you can see they work on opposite sides. Kind of fun. We are going to eventually put more thrusters down and in different locations, and that's going to give us a better walking movement. Now, when I built this the first time, I did not know how many balloons it was going to take to keep this cabin from crashing into the bottom. The answer is 3, maybe 4, depending on the sort of angle you want it to be placed at. I went with 8. 8 is too many. Do not place 8 balloons on this. I'm going to show you what happens if you do, though. Now that we have our balloons placed, we're going to remove our car jack. Remember, you only needed 3 balloons, not 8. Do as I say, not as I do. Otherwise, enjoy building this staircase. Alright, we are back up at the top to rescue our vehicle, and we're going to just punch some of these balloons out of the way. Start over on this side. Make sure when you remove balloons that you just do it one at a time. That way this doesn't come crashing down out of the sky. That's just a good trick for anything, not to use your pickaxe. You don't want to miss and hit your vehicle. And to make sure you remove balloons on opposite sides. We want a nice, graceful, slow fall, not a plummet. Nice and gentle. Alright, now that we have the bones of this thing made, we're going to get rid of this unnecessary staircase. We're going to make sure that we punch this one out of the way so we don't accidentally hit our vehicle. And at this point, I would recommend just messing around with weight and with balance. I add a balloon to the front and to the back, and you can see that this affects our weight. We're now flying, which means it's going to be time to add more vehicle parts. It doesn't really matter what parts you use. This customization part is up to you. I ultimately end up changing mine too. One thing that is important to know that the game doesn't necessarily tell you when you're building vehicles or in general when you're playing, the balloons are going to raise you to a specific height relative to sea level, relative to the ocean. Meaning a walking vehicle walks the best when its weight to balloon ratio relative to where it is against sea level lines up. And I know that sounds like a lot of nonsense, but you can see here as we're a little bit closer to the water, our vehicle is still flying, but up on a hill somewhere else, it walks just fine. Now, I've chosen to build this vehicle over at Star Wars Island for a reason. The theme of our builds is going to be trusting the Force. And what I mean by that is trusting your own instincts, your own feelings about the build as it's coming along, as you're testing different mechanics. Because one of the coolest parts about Fortnite, and also sometimes one of the most irritating, is that every couple of weeks they change it. The mechanics sometimes update, things that worked before don't work, new things that didn't work now do. So it's always a matter of going back, testing your builds, rebuilding them if you need to with new mechanics, trusting the Force, if you will. And the first thing that the Force told us was we needed those forward thrusters. That definitely helps us move forward, and it helps with the transformation. Next, I don't know why I put those thrusters on the top of the back legs, but don't do it. It just makes the back legs drive into the ground. I don't know what I was thinking. The 4 on the front legs, though, those work well. I have 2 of them pointed forward and 2 of them pointed up, and then that way when it transforms, one of them points down and one of them points forward. And that lets those front legs dig into the ground and gives you the most amount of traction. Now here, I was actually trying to drive it, and it was not working. I have an engine with 4 batteries in it, and it was barely rolling down the hill. But I figured out what the problem was, and you're not going to believe it. You have to put individual engines on each foot. The legs with powered wheels, which each one should have 1 powered wheel and 1 steering wheel, each one of those needs an engine with at least 1 battery in it. Otherwise, it will not work. So here I'll show you how I place the engine. I didn't realize there's a snap point, but you can use the snap point to click that into place. Snap points are really my favorite thing in this game. Add some batteries, and then now it drives. Here we go. Before we transform it, let me just give you one more look at the outside here. Make sure that yours looks reasonably similar to this. You can ignore those thrusters on those back legs. You also shouldn't need a staircase to hop onto this. I usually just jump right onto the legs and then it lets me onto the top. But let's give this guy a transformation, activate those balloons to get the legs moving, and then we're going to alternate between our thruster channels, 1 and 2, to get the legs to move. There we go. It really looks like we're walking here. It's still a little bit of an illusion because of what I was saying about the weight, the balloons, and our relativity to sea level. We are kind of half gliding, half walking, kind of jumping. Jumping with those forward thrusters is one of the easier ways to transform it, because then you leap onto the front legs, and then you just need to back it up onto your back legs. And then you should be able to turn relatively easy by just letting one side of the thruster, continuously push you in a circle. But let's ditch this storm. Next morning, I added a chest to the back, and we're going to remove this engine because we don't need it. The engines are just on the feet. Removing the engine actually popped a bunch of balloons, so it's a good time to show you what happens if that happens. Your vehicle's just going to land on the ground, That shouldn't be a problem, but I would not log out of your world with your walker like this. You don't want it to get stuck in the ground like your vehicles sometimes do. This one would be terrible to try to rescue. So we're going to remove, I think, this front balloon, or maybe I'm going to place different ones up in the inside here. But with the added weight we have, we're looking at about 5 or 6 balloons to keep the center cab up now. If you remember from earlier, I was saying it takes about 3 balloons to keep just the basic frame up off the ground, meaning the extra parts we've added, including the chest and those roof pieces, is worth about 2 or 3 balloons extra. One fun tip I realized working on this one, the smaller size of vehicle roof piece actually has more health than the larger size, so I will use those just to keep it from breaking. But there we go, we're giving it a test. Our vehicle walks. It does the little jumpy bit. It's still a little bit jank, right? We can see it's a little bit jank. We're gonna get better as we go along. This is just the Mark 1, the prototype, right? But let's give it a little transformation there. Okay, there we go, and then back it up. Nope, back it up. Nope, still just jumping, I guess. Thinks he's a deer. Let's move over here. I should be able to transform it into its driving form now. So we're going to just leap forward onto those front legs and then back it up onto the back legs. And now we should be able to drive just fine. I would recommend turning on both your 1 and 2 thruster when you're driving like this. That will force those front legs to drive into the ground, and then you can alternate either 1 or 2 to turn. I'll show you in a little bit, but I hadn't figured out the trick at that point when I was doing this recording. And it's apparently strong enough to crash into trees, so that's good to know. Alright, turn it into a walker to try to get it up this hill. And there's our rebel village. We haven't done any work here at all. But right now, let's transform it back into a driving vehicle. Oh, that's just so satisfying to watch. If you're struggling to get your vehicle to work quite like mine seems to be, don't feel too dismayed. There's a lot of footage that didn't make the cut, and most of this is still pretty prototype as far as you saw in my last vehicle build. I made a monorail, right? I'm working with what I got here. But if you've made it this far in the video, my guess is that you're trying to make one of these too. So we're going to take this last little bit of time to make sure we have our details right. Because I think I might have messed up on which wheels go where. So try both ways. See what works better for you. Is the steerable wheel in the corner piece there better, or is the power wheel in the corner better? Obviously as the feet transform and it changes its positioning, you know, I'm not really sure. I'm messing around with it. If you end up making this build and you find a better way to do it, definitely let me know because I will share it. I want everyone to have fun builds like this in Lego Fortnite. And it looks like that's what the community wants too, so let's do it. Also, do you guys see this? It has been sliding and gliding away from me or towards me this whole time. I should have just popped one of those balloons and let it land on the ground and hold itself in place. I would have struggled a lot less, that's for sure. But anyway, we got that wheel on. From what I understand, I'm looking back at this footage, and remember that this one I made exploded. The wheels should have steerable wheels on those corner pieces and powered wheels on the closer to the toe side. And what that should allow is for when we transform and those wheels move underneath the vehicle, the steerable wheels should all be on the front and the back, and the powered wheels should be directly beneath the weight of the vehicle. So let's see what happens here. Here's how you transform it. You're going to jump forward and turn off your activated balloons. That should bring your feet down beneath you. If the back legs get out of place, back it up. If the front legs are out of place, drive it forward. But then from there, it should be nice and smooth. You should be able to just drive. You can activate your thrusters again, like I was saying. That will hold you into place against the ground, and it'll also help you steer if you just use one instead of both thrusters. I wonder how long it takes me to figure that out. Oh, there we go. Right on cue. Well, I hope you learned something today at the Chaos Terminal. I hope you like this build, and I want to see you make it in your own world. If you're ready to follow along as we do our Star Wars village and make the Mark II and Mark III versions of our Nightcrawler, subscribe to the Chaos Terminal. We have weekly Lego Fortnite content, as well as mermaid content, other gaming content, just tons of fun stuff. It's the Chaos Terminal. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you soon to build the Mark II. Bye!